it's a little bit of a 60s inspiration, but then there's also a lot of other, you know, sort of menswear feeling, androgyny, a little aviation. We're doing big lashes because I wanted them to feel very pretty. The skin is very pretty. I did just primer. It just makes the skin look kind of very pure and ethereal. And then instead of doing a traditional 60s, you know, socket, I did closer to the middle of the eye and extended it further out. She's definitely a downtown cool girl.
It's just a very simple head of hair. It's a deep side parting, swooped over the forehead, so it gives like a boyish feeling, into a ponytail, which I then am putting in a little knot. And the whole feeling's very easy, sort of very downtown, very rag and bone.
Why was it aviation? I don't really know. It was just something I was interested in. I was particularly interested in starting minimal and starting with something very clean and looking at air stewardesses of the 50s and 60s where it was just very pared down and very clean, and that whole sort of minimal Jackie Onassis 60s twin set suit thing, which was very minimal. And so the aviation thing and the research into aviation led just progressively along the route to military aviation. Fighter pilots, bomber jackets. I mean, we always reference some sort of military thing, really, because the clothes are so cool and the fabrics are so amazing and the functionality is so interesting. So it just started there and went from there.
There's some pretty consistent references for the brand. You know, the military one is fairly important to us, as is the tailoring and the menswear, and you know, that's really sort of based on kind of who we are, where we come from, that kind of thing. And it's certainly something which is really sort of a big part of today's show. I think it's a cool mix of some of those really kind of key rag and bone references, really.
The fabrics felt very techno to me. They were very modern, you know, but yet they had this incredible heritage menswear feel to it. You know, the Prince of Wales, they had black and white checks going through, but yet at the same time it was very techy. So I really love those two, kind of traditional mixed with like high-edge tech.
I'm loving all this tomboy attitude that we're seeing on the runway this season. Leather in every collection, and certainly the boys did it in a very unexpected way of quilting it, which gave it a real motorcycle rocker attitude. Not only leather garments, but actually the idea of using leather as a bit of a contrast that I think is going to be very important as we go forward. The color sense, it was really unusual, but very captivating. I like that idea of kind of blues and greens, and then heated up with that hot magenta and purple that we're seeing everywhere this season. And orange on every runway for spring, and they did safety cone orange, like something you'd see on the side of the highway. Bright, bright orange continues as we go into the fall season.
It's like hunter's orange. It came from the linings of those old Air Force bomber jackets, but we've twisted it in various different ways into the collection. It was just something very cool about such a leery, bright color being in such a timeless garment. I mean, if you think about some of the more timeless garments in history, that bomber jacket might be one of them. And I think the snorkel parka is something we grew up with in England quite a lot. And I think the sort of exploration of timeless pieces is an important part of this season and every season.
A top coat, a camel coat, a steamer coat, a pea coat, or an anorak. Anything that speaks to like a boyfriend jacket is going to be a topper for everything this season.
when you're trying to talk about the rag and bone girl and what she represents and what she wants to wear. I think those timeless pieces and the search for the perfect parka or whatever it is, that's why we started the company, and that's, you know, what we continue to sort of mine.
Well, there's always a bit of a real British attitude in their collection, and certainly, as we know, they started in menswear, so you always find that very boy attitude in the collection, but there's also a real feminine little touch, that little flourish that makes it very much for a girl. And you see that in their little short skirts, you see that in the great dresses that were on the runway this season. Very strong collection for them. Well, rag and bone, it refers to a gentleman who used to collect things in London, England, and he's kind of the bone collector and the garment collector, and that's where the name came from, being that they're a British heritage.
It's a cool name. It really references the fact that we're English, which is a big part of, again, a big part of the brand. It's interesting that what sort of differentiates us in the fashion and sort of community. With any brand, you have to have your own voice and your own aesthetic, and you know, that's something that's evolving all the time and has been shaped over like 10 years now, and it's exciting to see where it's going. I don't think that we really think about the fact that it was scraps, and I think it's just kind of cool as a name and for what it stands for now.